You've tuned into The Break Room, a weekly conversation about how the city of St. Augustine works, from those who do the work every day. Hosted by the City of St. Augustine's Communications Manager, Melissa Wissel, The Break Room offers a closer look at the city's programs and provides updates on current and upcoming projects. And now, your host for The Break Room, Melissa Wissel.
Welcome to The Break Room. Thanks for joining us. I'm Melissa Wissel, Communications Manager for the City of St. Augustine. And this week, we're going to hear about some of the science and engineering that goes on behind the scenes in the City of St. Augustine. This week, joining me in the break room is our city's engineering manager, Stephen Slaughter. Stephen has worked for the city since June of 2017 and is currently responsible for the management and oversight of the engineering division within the Public Works Department. Stephen, welcome to the break room.
Thank you, Melissa.
So engineering, so that we can all get on the same page, what it means to be an engineer in municipal government, and more importantly, what do our engineers do for the city of St. Augustine?
Well, our engineers pretty much oversee the design and construction of new development and capital improvement projects. New development would be your new residential neighborhoods, new commercial buildings. Capital improvement projects are renovation, rehabilitation of existing infrastructures, such as water mains, lift stations, gravity sewers. It can also include roads, asphalt pavement as well.
Okay. And you have staff in your department?
Yeah, we have a great staff. We have Jessica Beach, who's our stormwater engineer. She's got a couple projects going on right now. Lake Maria Sanchez is probably the biggest project the city's ever done. It's to address sea level rise and storm surge. The ultimate goal is to provide a level of protection to 7.0 elevation.
Okay.
That's the same elevation that we have along the bayfront there. And so this is kind of a continuous project. It will improve the existing stormwater that's in the downtown area.
Okay.
This will protect, this project, when it's complete, will provide a high level of service protection for our historic buildings and history.
And Lake Maria Sanchez is sort of what would be considered south in downtown, in the heart of downtown, just south of City Hall.
Correct. It's around Lincolnville neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to give a shout out to Jessica. Jessica is our team lead or project lead for all the Tyflex valve projects.
Yes, she is. That's another project to basically install these one-way check valves into our storm system that will prevent sunny day flooding, high tides from backing up into the system and coming out the inlets into the street.
Is that still ongoing? I know there was a huge push on that a while back.
It is still ongoing. Okay. We have been very successful in the ones we have. We have probably about 10 more, I think, to be installed this year. Right. And it's just going to be a continuous process. We're getting the low-hanging fruit, if you will, the ones that give you the most bang for your buck.
Right.
I also have Jonathan Foster. He's our development engineer. And in addition to all the development projects he does, he's been working in the West Augustine area with the septic to sewer. Okay. Last year we did the West 2nd Street. Basically, we brought a couple blocks of homes from septic to, and we installed gravity sewer manholes. And this year, right now, we're actually, we've bid successfully, and we're about to start construction on West 5th Street. It's a very similar project, taking homes that are on septic and converting them to gravity sewer.
Great.
In addition to that, I've got James Wheeler. He's our most seasoned engineer, and he is working on gravity sewer R&R projects. This falls in line with the proactive versus reactive.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're doing CCTV inspection of our existing gravity sewers, and we're trying to find defects so that we can repair them with trenchless technologies. Trenchless technology, instead of having to dig down and open cut the street to pull the existing infrastructure out and put new infrastructure in, we're actually able to line from manhole to manhole without causing a lot of
disruption.
Disruption to the public, and it's more cost effective that way.
Okay, and James is also involved with every now and again we do that smoke testing.
Yes, that's another aspect to the inspection of the existing infrastructure. What we're looking for there is breaks or cracks in our existing gravity mains and our laterals that clean out. And what happens if we do have those breaks, we will see smoke come up through the ground. And where that smoke comes up, it's a fracture or a crack and can lead to inflow, illegal tie-ins of like downspouts for stormwater, or it's an actual crack and we've got infiltration for groundwater. And all of that water eventually leads to our wastewater treatment plant, which increases the amount of flow that we have to treat.
The volume of,
I also like to mention our inspectors, Mike McClendon and AJ Fouts. They are our last line of defense. We can spend all the time and money with design and review, and it can kind of all go out the window if we don't have those guys on the front line making sure that it's actually constructed the way that we've designed it.
And they're out in the field all the time.
Correct. And so to circle back to another major project the city's doing is the FEMA 13 lift station rehabilitation and replacement project. These are stations that were damaged and inundated during Hurricane Matthew and again during Hurricane Irma. And so with this project, what we're doing is we're actually elevating them to a higher level of protection to prevent the inundation of floodwaters, to prevent the floodwaters from going into the control panels and basically shutting down our collection system.
Kind of fries the system when they get wet.
Yeah. And so what this will do is during floods, during a 100-year flood, so we're putting the control panels about a foot or 2 feet actually above the 100-year flood, so that during said floods, they don't shut down and the wastewater is still collected and safely transported to the wastewater treatment plant. That, coupled with the I&I program that James is working on, will provide a somewhat watertight system to minimize the I&I, the infiltration and inflow of groundwater into our gravity sewer system.
And when you mentioned the FEMA 13, that comes from there's 13 lift stations, and
there was 13 lift stations identified as being damaged during Hurricane Matthew.
So as much as we suffer from those storms, we do get a little bit of mitigation and support in that recovery effort that helps.
Correct. And this effort is probably the second largest project the city's done behind the Lake Maria Sanchez, and it's going to go a long way. We're getting 13 lift stations replaced with it.
That's great. Just for a moment here, I want to take a minute to do a station identification. You're listening to The Break Room on Flagler College Radio. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Manager for the City of St. Augustine. Today, we have Stephen Slaughter in the break room with us. He is the Engineering Manager for the City of St. Augustine. So we're going to switch gears a little bit here for the second half and talk about the COVID-19 coronavirus that has been impacting the city. Citywide, not just residential, not just with the municipal government itself, but the engineering department. You have your own challenges with that, but yet at the same time, it hasn't stopped some of the work that you all do.
No, all of our projects are still moving forward. We actually saw an increase in workload in the very beginning of this. People, I think they were a little fearful that things might slow down, so they were trying to get their work in before that really happened. But And we're still chugging along, moving ahead. We've got about 60% of my hallway working from home right now. We've luckily had a recent switch. We were scheduled for desktop replacements, and we took that opportunity to move from desktops to Surface Pros so that we can be more mobile and work from home, and not only from home, but actually take the Surface Pro out into the field and access our GIS and mark up drawings and plans, take it to meetings, and
a slight silver lining.
Yeah, timing was nice.
Right. You all have. You were talking about the projects that still have are able to be continued, and that includes things like Charlotte Street projects.
Oh yeah.
Nate, can you share with us a little bit? With I would think that with having less traffic and fewer people downtown, also it makes the work a little bit easier, maybe to get completed.
Yeah, you can't see me, but I'm nodding. Yes, we've been it's been easier to do inspections and point repairs, and we're still working on identifying critical point repairs in major roads that now have less traffic on them, and not just identifying them, but actually getting them corrected. And in addition to that, you mentioned Charlotte Street. Charlotte Street's been on the books for a while, and luckily we're on the home stretch. We're putting the bricks down this week, and it should be opened up soon.
So in addition to these street projects that are continuing and ongoing, there's a new project that you are taking the lead on, and that has to do with coronavirus and our wastewater.
Correct. We're currently looking into finding labs that can receive what's called a composite sample of our raw, untreated wastewater from the head of our plant to test for the what's called the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And not only will this give us a positive test, but we hope to get a concentration so that we can actually see the change in concentration over time of the virus in our wastewater collection system. That's our number one goal. I guess the second goal would be there are some white papers out there right now that suggest that we might be able to use the concentration of the virus in the collection system to give an estimate for the number of people in the system that are affected or have the coronavirus. And then from there, we could, if we do see an increase, we could drill down and actually take sample points from different lift stations throughout the system to kind of identify the hot spots and see where the trouble spots are.
Interesting.
And we can use that for, our social distancing and what have you.
A lot of science and science meets engineering. City manager was on a couple weeks ago and talked about, the ability to make data-driven decisions. So it sounds like this is really just another tool in our toolbox, if you will, of being able to monitor, literally monitor the health of the community. I don't know that I would have necessarily thought of the health monitoring aspect of the wastewater that comes into the treatment plant.
It's going to be a great tool to basically see how the virus is moving through our system and from our system through our population, and we can tell if it's increasing or decreasing, and eventually have an idea of how many people are affected at any given time.
One last quick question for you: the Bridge of Lions.
Yeah,
we recently came up with this idea. Someone had made the recommendation. Tell us a little bit quick about how that affected you, or just where that all of that ties into engineering. And that's always surprises me sometimes when engineering gets brought into certain things, and as I learn more. So share that with me if you would.
Well, it was an issue that was brought up from from general public, and it was identified as a risk. The Bridge of Lions, of course, has a north and south pedestrian crosswalk, and people were walking in both directions, and it's pretty narrow. It's about 3 feet, so that doesn't provide the 6 feet separation recommendation. And so what we did is we basically went out there and was like, oh, that's an easy fix. We can just put up do not enter signs and one-way signs, and it was a pretty cool exercise. And I know what I want you to do, and it makes sense to me, but there was some disconnect when the public saw it. They weren't quite sure what was going on, and so it took a little trial and error, and eventually we're like, okay, message boards. And we basically spelled it out and tried to be as clear as possible what we wanted them to do, and I think it's been a success.
It's that communications aspect. Like you just said, you have a vision of what it's going to look like. I have a vision of what we're expecting people to do. So you and I put our heads together, and you want to put up a do not enter, but the community says, what do you mean do not enter? I'm trying to get across the bridge.
Yeah, it could have been seen as, well, maybe it's closed temporarily. And I do have to thank Ex-Pellissier for that. I wouldn't have been able to accomplish that without his help. So
great.
He had the know-how and the go-to to get it done.
Yeah, X knows what he's talking about when it comes to pedestrians and directions of traffic and then those message boards.
Yes.
I want to thank you for coming and speaking with us on the break room today. And to all of our listeners, if we've missed anything here, please feel free to send an email to info@citysanog.com. Let me know if we missed anything or if there's someone you would like to hear from. We want to keep you informed about what's happening in and around the city, and most importantly, that you hear it here from the people doing the work and making it happen every day. Remember that in order to stay connected, you need to be connected. Like us and follow us, and share our stories from our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @CitySanog. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
You've been listening to The Break Room, a weekly program about projects and programs offered by the City of St. Augustine. We hope you'll join us each week as host Melissa Whistle and her guests have a conversation that helps you better understand how our city works to meet the needs of our community. See you next time on The Break Room.